has Sophie Cunningham been all game in the first half? Like, wait, where's Sophie Cunningham been all game? Are they like messing with Sophie Cunningham's minutes? Is this like kind of like punishment? I don't want to say it was, but it kind of feels like a little bit of, it kind of feels like minutes restrict.
I think that there are rights that need to be protected. And like I said, I'm going to stand true to that. I'll never falter in my beliefs in that. But I have never once said I hated the trans community. Like I said, I think there's space for everyone. I can't applaud her enough. This notion that you're hating on the trans community because you are not a proponent of them participating in female sports is utterly ridiculous. Sophie Cunningham said every word right on the money. There's no hate involved. There's only love we're talking about. But what happened to loving girls who are born biologically as girls? What about their rights? What about fairness associated to them?
Sophie Cunningham didn't say anything wild. She didn't call anyone names. She didn't attack a teammate. And she didn't even bring the topic up unprompted. A reporter asked her a direct question during an ESPN profile. Peace, and she gave a direct answer. She said she wants to protect women's sports, protect young girls in locker rooms, and make sure the competition on the court actually stays fair for the athletes it was built for.
On that same vein, Investor with ESPN, you talked about wanting to protect young girls who shouldn't have to go against biological men. Just can you expand your viewpoint on that?
I mean, I think I said what I said. I think it's kind of common sense. And I think I'll always believe in that. I think it's really important to protect children. And that's little girls who are also involved in that category. And so I stand on what I said, and I always believe that. You know, I don't know. I'm not a very political person, but I do have beliefs. I have morals, and I'll always stand on those and be true to who I am. And I think people are going to take it how they want to take it, but I've never even really said anything about that. And so when it comes just to protecting young girls in sport and women in sport, I feel very strongly about that. I think that's why you have Title IX. That's why you have some of the greats in women's sports. If Title IX and women's sports were protected, then you wouldn't hear about any type of women in sport. And so I think in the future, it's just really important.
That's the whole thing. That's the entire controversy everyone's suddenly talking about. And within about 48 hours of what she said coming out, it turned into one of the biggest storylines in the entire league, right in the middle of All-Star Week, when the conversation should have been about basketball.
Sophie Cunningham just said what Simone Biles and Megan Rapinoe have refused to say. In an interview with ESPN, Cunningham blatantly said that she does not want biological men in women and girls sports. What Cunningham said is just common sense, but obviously in female sports, this is considered incredibly courageous, because while Riley Gaines has fought tooth and nail along with other women and girls to keep their sports female, Serena Williams, A'ja Wilson, Paige Beckers, Katie Ledecky, Coco Gauff, you name it, have been silent, or they've actually supported men and women's sports. So in a sports world full of Megan Rapinoes, via Sophie.
The reaction was immediate and honestly kind of disproportionate once you actually watch what she said versus how it got framed. Outlets started running headlines saying Sophie sparked a meltdown, like she'd said something reckless or hateful instead of something a huge chunk of everyday sports fans already believe quietly and rarely get to hear an actual pro athlete say out loud.
Men should not be playing in women's sports. It's completely ludicrous that anyone could support that. It's even more ludicrous that you do have Sophia Cunningham, a female athlete herself, very accomplished in her own right, coming forth and speaking that truth that men shouldn't play in women's sports. We want to protect women and girls, and the backlash she is receiving from Democrats and left-wing figures across the country is astonishing. They are clearly very out of touch with the American public on this issue, which again is an 80-20 issue. It's common sense. It's rooted in basic biological fact that men should not be competing against women on playing fields across the country.
Media members who'd barely mentioned her name all season suddenly had a lot to say about her character, her motives, even her intelligence. And Sophie, being Sophie, didn't back off the second the heat showed up. When reporters pushed her on it again days later, expecting her to soften it or clarify it into something safer, she stood by every single word.
I extend love, and I don't dislike anyone. Like, I think there is room for absolutely everyone here, and I think there's room to love everyone. And I truly think when you get people in the same room and you have conversations, you actually have a lot in common with a lot of people. And so I'm there to love. but I'm also there to love biological women. And I think that there are rights that need to be protected. And like I said, I'm going to stand true to that. I'll never falter in my beliefs in that, but I have never once said I hated the trans community. Like I said, I think there's space.
That follow-up moment is honestly the part that deserves more attention than the original comment. A lot of athletes get one hard question from a reporter, feel the room's temperature shift, and immediately start walking things back with some version of, "That's not what I meant. She's not out here trying to be a headline or chase controversy." For clicks, she's just not the kind of person who changes what she thinks the moment a room full of reporters makes an uncomfortable face at her. And if you followed her career even a little, that tracks completely with who she's always been.
Sophie Cunningham is not some radical. She is the tip of the iceberg when it comes to female athletes speaking out about biological men in women's sports. Like right now, she's going viral for saying, "I want to protect young girls in a locker room or young girls in a sport who shouldn't have to go against biological men." And then these journalists reporting on the WNBA started grilling her, trying to see if they could get her to walk it back, and she just stands her ground and goes, "I said what I said." First of all, heck yeah for not backing down, which we all knew that she wouldn't because she's that way on the court too. She doesn't really care if she makes anybody angry. But I really do think, even though she is obviously uniquely bold on these sorts of issues, I really do think that the temperature is beginning to change, because biological men in women's sports is the clearest example of this ideology being taken too far. The clearest example of something that is so far detached from reality that you're going to have a hard time getting average, normal, everyday people to accept it. Public opinion data on this agrees. Back in 2023, 67% of people were opposed to biological men in women's sports. New York Times released data from last year. It is almost 80% of people that are opposed to that now. So the less than 20% of people who still think that this should be allowed.
Because this is a new behavior from her, Sophie's been the loudest, most unfiltered personality on that Fever roster since the day she got there, and that's never been an accident. She talks trash on the court. She gets in opponents' faces when they cross a line, and she's never once acted like she needed permission from a front office or a PR team to be herself. Fans didn't fall in love with her because she plays it safe. They fell in love with her because she's the rare modern athlete who still says exactly what she means, consequences or not.
So Sophie Cunningham leads the league behind Aaliyah Boston with the highest percentage of three-pointers made. Sophie Cunningham leads that behind Aaliyah Boston. And for whatever reason, the WNBA hating the fact that Sophie Cunningham is a straight white female, hating the fact that Sophie Cunningham is using the brain cells that she has and is understanding that a rising tide lifts all boats, her standing 10 toes down behind Caitlin Clark, her becoming popular in her own right. That's just unacceptable to the WNBA. So she was not one of the participants chosen for the three-point shooting contest. The WNBA just hates publicity. They love standing in their own way. Any type of anything that's going to bring more eyes, more viewership to the league, if it's not with their agenda that they're walking 10 toes for, they don't want anything to do with it.
Now here's where things start lining up in a way that's genuinely hard to just wave off as coincidence. Days after that interview aired, and the story kept snowballing across every sports outlet online, Indiana lost at home to the Golden State Valkyries. Sophie took the blame afterward in typical fashion, saying, "I'll own that, being the accountable teammate she's always been in these situations." People were asking in real time. During the broadcast, "Where's Sophie? Why isn't she out there in a close game? What happened to her usual rotation spot?" And nobody courtside seemed to have a clean, satisfying answer for any of it.
Sophie Cunningham played 7 minutes in the first half after doubling down on what she said. Folks, I don't remember Sophie Cunningham playing 7 minutes in a first half all season long in the game that she's played it. But then after that, you have the Indiana Fever putting out a statement. "Our players are thoughtful adults with their own perspectives and voices, and those views are their own. We are committed to welcoming fans from every background and treating everyone with respect. And that's what guides us as an organization." So the Fever are saying we are committed to welcoming fans from every background.
This wasn't a one-game blip either, which is exactly what makes it worth digging into further. Across her most recent stretch of appearances, Sophie's averaging under 23 minutes a night, a number that's noticeably low for a rotation piece who's been one of the more consistent scoring threats off Indiana's bench all season long, a player performing at that level doesn't usually see her role shrink for no basketball reason. Something tends to change behind the scenes when a coach quietly starts trimming a hot player's minutes right after that same player becomes the center of a national media firestorm.
Players, we've got to continue to support our players in our league. We get to play a basketball game. And AT was exactly right. Like, we get to play a basketball game. And yes, that's going to come with criticism. Yes, that's going to come with fans and the love-hate relationship that they have with players and teams. That is going to come. But it's not hard to not be a jerk. And if you are one of these people that are online doing this, do not call yourself a WNBA fan. Our league is about inclusiveness. Our league
is about inclusiveness.
Do not call yourself a WNBA fan. Our league is about inclusiveness. Our league is about competition.
Our league is about competition.
Our league is about elevating.
Our league is about elevating.
Elevating women.
Elevating women.
Elevating marginalized communities.
Elevating marginalized communities.
Including and in being inclusive of all different walks.
And when reporters actually asked Stephanie White directly about the sudden dip in Sophie's playing time, the answers got vague fast, almost noticeably. So if you watch the body language closely, there was no clear injury explanation offered up, and clean basketball reasoning about tough matchups, foul trouble, or defensive schemes forcing a change. Just the usual coach speak about managing the group and doing what's best for the team as a whole. The kind of answer that technically says something while actually explaining nothing at all. Maybe that really is exactly what it is. This wasn't some random Tuesday buried in the middle of June. With nothing else going on around it, this happened the exact same week Sophie was under a national media microscope for refusing to change her stance on protecting women's sports. The same week outlets were actively running stories, questioning her character over comments that were, by any fair reading, pretty mild and pretty reasonable. If Stephanie White had a genuinely unrelated basketball reason for cutting those minutes, this would have been the moment to say so clearly and put the whole thing to rest. Instead, the silence and vague non-answers only made people dig deeper.
Is it transphobic to say that men don't have a place in women's sports? Men should play with their own team as men, unless it's a co-ed league, which this is not what we're talking about. Is that transphobic? You know, she's not transphobic. What she is real. And that's why they hate her. I like her. People are going to hate on you when you speak the truth. She speaks the truth.
Fans noticed all of this in real time, and that's not speculation. That's just what actually showed up across social media during the live broadcast itself. People were asking openly why Sophie, a fan favorite who plays with more visible energy and physicality than almost anyone else on that roster, was glued to the bench during winnable stretches of a genuinely close game. Why did it happen specifically the same week the biggest story of her career broke wide open? Why not 2 weeks earlier, when nobody was watching closely, or 2 weeks later, once the news cycle had already moved on to something else?
You know, it's cool. It's funny what kind of people are attracted to. You know, I'm just trying to keep the main thing. The main thing is that's basketball, trying to win games, sticking up for my teammates. And that's all part of it. I think all that stuff it's fun and whatnot, but at the end of the day, we need to win some basketball games. I'm just going to be me. I don't go in there trying to predetermine anything. You know, I'm dialed in. I need to focus on hitting my shots, making sure I'm executing the schemes right. I'm not focused on the extracurricular activities. And you know what? During that, it was just part of the game. I think the refs had a lot to do with that. It was a build-up for a couple of years now of them just not protecting, you know, the star player of the WNBA. And so at the end of the day, I'm going to protect my teammates. That's what I do. And I'm a team player. So
what makes this whole situation land even harder is who Sophie actually is as a person, on and off the court. She's never once been the type to let anyone script what she says or dictate how she plays the game. She talks trash. She defends her teammates without hesitation. She's gotten ejected from games standing up for Caitlin Clark when things got chippy and personal, and she's never once apologized afterward for having a backbone. That's precisely why so many fans gravitated toward her in the first place, long before any of this current controversy started. That kind of authenticity is rare in professional sports right now, where most athletes have learned to speak in careful, media-trained soundbites designed to offend nobody and say almost nothing of substance. Sophie clearly never got that memo, and up until this point, that's mostly worked in her favor with the fan base. The question now is whether the league itself actually wants players like her around, or whether they prefer someone easier to control.
He forgets I have a broken leg. Wow, so cool.